Ladies and gentlemen, one grows weary after a certain age of watching politicians perform the same tired routines, the defection, the betrayal, the solemn rebranding of naked opportunism as principled evolution. But occasionally the theatre becomes so absurd, the contradiction so glaring, that one is compelled to point and laugh. Such is the case with Reform's recent acquisition of Robert Jenrick, a man whose departure from the Conservative Party was preceded by the most theatrical assurances of eternal loyalty, and Farage, bless him, has welcomed this turncoat with open arms, as if principles were merely decorative accessories to be discarded when inconvenient. Allow me to illuminate this absurdity for you. Nigel Farage, a man whose political career has been a masterclass in the art of perpetual adolescent rebellion, constructs his entire identity on the premise of being against the Conservative Party, against the establishment, against the oligarchs and the suits in their Westminster monasteries. He positions himself as the great disruptor, the teller of uncomfortable truths, the man who speaks for those whom the comfortable classes would prefer to remain silent. A populist, you might say, a man of the people. And yet, enter Robert Jenrick, a man who, until quite recently, occupied a rather prominent position within the very conservative establishment that Farage claims to abhor. A man who, in his earlier iterations, performed the remarkable political feat of insisting, with all the earnest solemnity of a schoolboy scout taking his oath, that he would never, under any conceivable circumstances, abandon the Conservative Party, that he was a true blue believer. The ink on those declarations was still wet, positively glistening with sincerity, when Jenrick performed that most curious of political pirouettes and absconded to Farage's Reform Party. And here is where the comedy reaches its crescendo. Farage, you see, allegedly despises the Conservative Party. Yet he opens his arms, indeed he opens the very doors of his organisation to one of its senior members. And Jenrick, who once swore eternal fidelity to the Tory project, now finds himself comfortably ensconced in the bosom of the Reform Party. The hypocrisy is not merely transparent, it is rendered in such bold relief that one requires no glasses whatsoever to perceive it. But wait, there is more. Farage claims he dislikes Jenrick. This is, of course, the politic fiction one must maintain when one is simultaneously attempting to ingratiate oneself with a man whose political skills and credentials might prove useful in the forthcoming electoral struggles. The dislike is genuine, perhaps, but it is also, and more importantly, instrumental. It is hypocrisy of the most utilitarian sort. What Jenrick has brought fundamentally is legitimacy, or at least the appearance of it. He brings the imprimatur of respectability, the sense that the Reform Party is not merely a collection of plebs and outsiders, but a destination worthy of those who have already tasted power. In doing so, he has revealed the entire enterprise as a con. Reform was never about opposing the elite. It was about replacing them. Jenrick is merely the first prominent member of the old guard to realize that the con might actually work. This is not the hierarchical principle of old-fashioned respect and genuine earned authority. No, this is the hierarchical principle of the networked elite. The assumption that the mechanisms of power should be operated by those who are already positioned within or adjacent to the corridors of power. Jenrick brings to the Reform Party precisely the mentality that the Reform Party was, in its origins, meant to challenge. Now here is the truly exquisite irony, and I do love a well-constructed irony. The Reform Party is, in the process of absorbing men like Jenrick, becoming conservative in the most literal sense of the word. It is developing a stake in the maintenance of the existing order. It is accumulating careerists and opportunists who have sniffed the possibility of power and have made their calculations accordingly. The youthful rebelliousness is calcifying into something rather more traditional, the desire to conserve one's own privileges and position. The party that Farage built on the premise of insurgency is becoming the Conservative Party. Not in name, admittedly, but in character, in inclination, in its fundamental orientation toward those who possess power and wish to keep it. The Conservatives were always the party of property, of caution, of the status quo with minor adjustments. The Reform Party, for all its bluster about populism and common sense, is discovering that it rather enjoys being in proximity to power. And so it is transforming, before our very eyes, into that which it condemned. Jenrick is merely the symptom of a much larger disease, the disease of political ambition devouring its host, the disease of principles evaporating when confronted with the possibility of ministerial office. We are witnessing the death of an idea, not through dramatic confrontation, but through the far more mundane process of assimilation. The rebel becomes the establishment not through conquest, but through slow, almost imperceptible accommodation. One compromises here, one accepts a minor deviation there, and before long, one cannot remember what one was rebelling against in the first place. It is, in short, the death of irony performed as farce, and the public, one supposes, will continue to believe that they are voting for change.